Winter's whisper. I should have never bought that house. Put your phone down and just listen. This isn't just a story, it's an experience. Right now, you're holding your phone, your screen glowing in the dim light. But what if I told you that the real horror isn't in the words you're reading, but in the silence around you? Put your phone down, don't look at the screen. Just listen. Can you hear it? The faint creak of the walls? The whisper of the wind outside? Maybe. Just maybe. Something else? You don't need to see, you just need to listen. Because sometimes, the scariest things aren't in front of you. They're behind you. It was too cheap, too isolated, and the real estate agent had been too eager to get rid of it. But I was desperate. New job, new town, and nowhere to live. The house sat on the outskirts of town, surrounded by a dead forest, its branches like skeletal fingers against the pale winter sky. The first night was when the whispering started. At first I thought it was just the wind, slipping through cracks in the old wooden walls. But then, around midnight, I realized the sound had a pattern, soft, rhythmic, like someone murmuring just out of reach. I held my breath, trying to make out words, but the moment I focused, the sound stopped. I didn't sleep much that night. The next morning, the snow had fallen heavier than expected. The world outside was white and silent, except for the distant creaking of trees bending under the weight. My nearest neighbor was over a mile away, and my phone had lost service since the storm started. I told myself the whispering was in my head. Stress, exhaustion, nothing more. Then I found the footprints. They started at my front door, bare, human. Footprints leading away into the snow-covered woods. No shoes, no signs of hesitation, just a single trail of deep impressions, disappearing into the trees. My stomach twisted. I hadn't left the house that morning. No one else had come. I followed them. The snow crunched beneath my boots as I moved forward, breath fogging in the frigid air. The trees swallowed the daylight, shadows stretching long and jagged across the ground. The footprints led me deeper and deeper until suddenly they stopped. Not faded, not covered, just stopped, in the middle of an undisturbed patch of snow. Like whoever made them had simply ceased to exist. A gust of wind howled through the trees, and I heard it again, the whispering. But this time it wasn't coming from the house, it was coming from behind me. I turned, heart hammering, expecting what? A trick of the wind? Some lost traveler? Instead I saw nothing, but I felt something. A pressure in the air, a shift in the cold, like a presence standing just out of sight. My skin prickled, every instinct screaming at me to run. But I couldn't, my legs wouldn't move. Then the whispering changed. It wasn't distant anymore, it was inside my ears. Why did you come? I choked on my breath, stumbling backward, the voice so close it might as well have been spoken against my neck. But no one was there. Go back. I ran. The footprints, my footprints, were gone. The path back to the house was erased as if I had never walked it. My lungs burned, my fingers numb, but I didn't stop until I saw the dark silhouette of the house. Against the white horizon, I slammed the door behind me, chest heaving. The house was silent. The wind had died, but the cold inside felt deeper than before. And then I saw them. The same footprints, bare, human, starting from the center of my living room and leading to my bedroom door. The whispering began again. This time it was laughing. I don't know why I took that road. Maybe it was the snowstorm blurring my usual path home. Maybe it was exhaustion, or maybe something wanted me to. The road was narrow, barely visible under the thick layer of snow. My headlights cut through the darkness, revealing nothing but endless white and the skeletal branches of dead trees. The wind howled like a living thing rattling against my car. Then I saw it. A figure standing in the middle of the road. I slammed the brakes. The car skidded, tires struggling against the ice. My heart pounded. Through the frost-covered windshield, I could barely make out the shape. Tall, motionless, wrapped in something dark. I turned on the high beams, and it was gone. No footprints, no sign that anyone had ever been there. A chill ran down my spine, colder than the winter air seeping into my car. My breath fogged up the glass as I exhaled shakily. I told myself it was nothing, just my eyes playing tricks on me. Then my radio crackled, a burst of static, garbled whispers. A voice, barely audible beneath the distortion. It said my name. The engine stalled, the headlights flickered, and outside in the whirling snow the figure returned closer. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. The temperature in the car plummeted, ice forming along the dashboard. My fingers trembled as I reached for the keys, desperately trying to restart the engine. The figure took another step forward. I saw its face this time, or rather, I didn't. Where its eyes should have been, there was only darkness. Where its mouth should have been, there was only silence. But I felt it watching me. The radio crackled again. "Let me in!" I screamed. The engine roared back to life. The headlights flared, and the figure was gone. I didn't look back. I didn't stop driving until I reached my house, locking every door, every window. I told myself it was just my mind, just the storm, just the tricks of winter's long, cold night. But then, I heard it, a whisper, coming from outside my bedroom window. "Let me in." I never believed in ghost stories, not until the winter of 2018. I was on my way to my uncle's cabin, an old, secluded place deep in the Montana wilderness. He had passed away unexpectedly, and it fell on me to check on the property. The drive should have taken 4 hours, but the snowstorm turned it into 8. By the time I reached the cabin, it was nearly midnight, and the world outside was nothing but darkness and ice. The cabin was exactly as I remembered, small, creaky, and buried under layers of untouched snow. My uncle had always been a recluse, and judging by the dust coating everything inside, no one had been here for a while. I started a fire, unpacked my bags, and sat in silence, listening to the wind howling outside. The temperature had dropped below freezing, and the windows rattled as if something was trying to get in. That was when I saw them. Footprints. Bare, human footprints in the snow, leading from the edge of the forest straight to my door. My stomach twisted. No sane person would be out here barefoot in a storm. I grabbed a flashlight and hesitated at the door. The wind wailed through the trees as I slowly pushed it open. The footprints stopped right at my porch, but there was no one there. Shone the flashlight toward the forest. Nothing but snow-covered trees and the shifting shadows of branches swaying in the wind. Still, I felt it, that unsettling weight in the air, like I wasn't alone. I slammed the door shut and locked it. Maybe it was just an animal. Maybe the wind had shaped the snow into something that looked like footprints. I tried to convince myself. Then the knocking started, a slow, deliberate tap, 3 times. I froze. 3 more knocks. I stepped back from the door. My breath fogged in the freezing air. There's no one out there. 3 more knocks. The fire crackled behind me, casting long shadows across the wooden floor. My mind raced. If someone was out there, they wouldn't have survived in this cold, not barefoot, not without leaving some sign of movement. And yet, the knocking continued. I took a deep breath and forced myself to look out the peephole. Nothing. But when I pulled back, something changed. The air inside the cabin was colder than before. The fire, burning strongly just moments ago, had dimmed, the flames struggling against the dark. Then I saw the footprints again. Inside. They started at the door and led across the floor, stopping just behind me. I turned too fast, tripping over the old rug. My flashlight tumbled from my grip, rolling to a stop near the fireplace. I scrambled for it, hands shaking, heart pounding so hard it echoed in my ears. The room was empty, but I wasn't alone. The knocking came again, this time from the window. I didn't want to look. I shouldn't have looked, but I did. Outside, pressed against the glass, was a face, pale, hollow-eyed, lips cracked and blue from the cold. It had no breath, no movement, yet I knew it was watching me. Then it smiled. Not a human smile. Too wide. Too unnatural. Like its skin was stretching just to mimic the expression. And in the silence of that frozen night, I heard it whisper, its voice crackling like ice breaking underfoot. "You let us in." The lights went out. The fire died. And the last thing I felt was the cold,